It was a late evening at the sleek headquarters of Pinnacle Solutions, where the hum of ambition never quite faded. The CEO, Daniel Harper, was burning the midnight oil, reviewing reports in his glass-walled office. As he stepped out for a coffee, he overheard a voice, a janitor, quietly conversing in flawless Mandarin, then switching effortlessly to Arabic, Spanish, and 6 other languages. 9 in total. Daniel froze, stunned by the discovery. What he did next would ripple through the entire company, leaving employees speechless and redefining what it meant to truly see the people around you. Daniel Harper had built Pinnacle Solutions from a scrappy startup into a global tech giant over 2 decades. At 47, he was known for his razor-sharp focus and a knack for spotting potential where others saw none. His company, headquartered in Chicago, employed over 2,000 people across 3 continents, specializing in AI-driven logistics software. The office was a hive of activity. Programmers coding late into the night, executives hashing out deals, and the hum of ambition that kept the lights on long after hours. But that evening, as Daniel walked through the nearly empty halls, something unexpected caught his attention. The voice came from the break room, a low murmur that carried an unusual cadence. Daniel, curious, paused near the doorway. Inside, a janitor was cleaning, his back turned, speaking into a wireless earbud. His name was Elias Torres, a man in his early 30s who had worked at Pinnacle for 2 years. Elias was unremarkable in the eyes of most. Always polite, always efficient, blending into the background with his mop and cart. But now, his voice flowed with a confidence that made Daniel stop in his tracks. The man was speaking Mandarin, rapid and precise, as if negotiating a deal. Then, without missing a beat, he switched to Arabic, his tone warm but professional, followed by Spanish, French, German, Russian, Portuguese, Japanese, and Swahili. 9 languages, each delivered with native-like fluency. Daniel stood rooted to the spot, his coffee forgotten. He'd traveled the world, sat in boardrooms with global leaders, and heard his share of multilingual talent. But this, a janitor, unnoticed by the company's high-flyers, wielding a linguistic arsenal that could rival any diplomat. It was unthinkable. He stepped closer, careful not to interrupt, listening as Elias wrapped up his call in Swahili, promising to follow up tomorrow. When Elias turned and saw Daniel, he froze, his face a mix of surprise and caution. "Mr. Harper," Elias said, pulling out his earbud. "Didn't see you there. Everything okay?" Daniel, still processing, nodded. "Just getting coffee. You speak all those languages?" Elias shifted uncomfortably, wiping his hands on his uniform. "Yeah, I pick up languages. Always have. Helps with side stuff." "Side stuff?" Daniel pressed, his curiosity piqued. Elias hesitated, then shrugged. "I do some freelance translation, mostly at night. Small gigs, nothing big." Daniel's mind raced. Translation. This wasn't just translation. The fluency, the ease, it was extraordinary. He thanked Elias and returned to his office, but the encounter gnawed at him. How had someone like Elias, with such talent, ended up mopping floors at Pinnacle? And why hadn't anyone noticed? The next morning, Daniel called his HR director, Sarah Nguyen, into his office. Sarah, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, had been with Pinnacle for a decade. She knew every employee's file by heart. "Elias Torres," Daniel said, leaning forward. "What's his story?" Sarah frowned, pulling up Elias's file on her tablet. "Hired 2 years ago, custodial staff. Reliable, no complaints. Background checks clean. High school diploma, no higher education listed." "Why?" "He speaks 9 languages," Daniel said flatly. "Fluently. I heard him last night." Sarah blinked. 9. That's not in his file. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure," Daniel replied. "I want to know more." Quietly. Sarah nodded, sensing the weight of his request. Over the next few days, she dug into Elias's background, careful not to raise suspicion. What she found was sparse but intriguing. Elias had grown up in a working-class neighborhood in Chicago, the son of Mexican immigrants. His high school records showed above-average grades but no standout achievements. No college, no formal language training. Yet colleagues mentioned offhand comments about Elias helping with Spanish translations for a coworker's family or chatting in French with a vendor. Nothing official, just glimpses of something extraordinary. Daniel couldn't let it go. He started observing Elias, noting how he moved through the office. Quiet, efficient, but with a sharp awareness of his surroundings. One evening, Daniel approached him again, this time in the lobby as Elias polished the glass doors. "Elias, can we talk?" Elias nodded, wary but polite. They sat in a quiet corner of the cafeteria, and Daniel got straight to the point. "How did you learn 9 languages? And why are you here, cleaning floors?" Elias took a deep breath, his guard lowering slightly. "I've always had an ear for languages. Started with Spanish at home, then picked up others from neighbors, books, radio, whatever I could find. By high school I was fluent in 4. Kept going from there. As for why I'm here..." He paused, choosing his words. "Life doesn't always line up the way you expect. I needed a steady job, and this one pays the bills." Daniel leaned back, processing. "You ever think about doing more with it? Translation, interpretation, something bigger?" Elias gave a small smile. "Thought about it. But I didn't have the degrees, the connections. Freelancing's fine, but it's not stable. This job is." Daniel didn't push further, but his mind was already working. Pinnacle had clients in 17 countries, and language barriers often slowed negotiations. The company spent millions on external translators and localization teams. Could Elias be the key to streamlining that? More than that, Daniel saw something else in Elias. A quiet resilience, a mind that had thrived despite being overlooked. He wasn't just a janitor with a hidden talent. He was a reminder of how much potential went unnoticed every day. The next week, Daniel made a decision that would send shockwaves through Pinnacle. He called a meeting with his senior leadership team, 15 executives who oversaw everything from product development to international sales. The agenda was vague. New talent strategy. When they gathered in the boardroom, Daniel didn't waste time. "We're sitting on untapped potential in this company," he began. "And I'm not talking about the people in this room." He told them about Elias, detailing the 9 languages and the freelance work. The executives exchanged glances, some skeptical, others intrigued. "I want him off the custodial team," Daniel said. "We're creating a new role, language and cultural liaison. He'll work with our international teams, handle real-time translation, and advise on cultural nuances. Effective immediately." The room went silent. Mark Reynolds, the VP of Operations, spoke first. "Daniel, no offense, but a janitor? We don't even know if he can handle high-stakes meetings." "He speaks 9 languages fluently," Daniel shot back. "Can any of us do that? I'm not saying it's a sure thing, but we're testing him. If he fails, we pivot. If he succeeds, we've found something extraordinary." The executives murmured, some nodding, others unconvinced. But Daniel's word was final. He tasked Sarah with designing a trial period for Elias, starting with low-stakes tasks, translating emails, sitting in on client calls, and drafting multilingual proposals. Elias, when informed, was stunned. "Mr. Harper, I'm not trained for this," he protested. "You don't need to be," Daniel said. "You've got the skills. We'll handle the rest." Elias's first week in the new role was rocky. He was nervous, unused to the corporate world's pace and politics. His first client call with a Japanese supplier was stiff. He stumbled over formalities, unsure of his place. But his fluency was undeniable, and the supplier, impressed by his command of Japanese, asked to work with him again. By week 2, Elias was translating live during a tense negotiation with a Brazilian client, catching nuances that the previous translator had missed. The deal, worth $4 million, closed smoothly. Word spread through the office. Employees whispered in the halls, some in awe, others skeptical. "The janitor's in meetings now," one programmer muttered. What's next? The receptionist running R&D. But those who worked with Elias saw something different. He wasn't just a linguist. He had an instinct for people, picking up on cultural cues that smoothed over tense moments. A German client praised his refreshing directness, a stark contrast to the polished but impersonal translators they'd used before. Daniel watched closely, meeting with Elias weekly to gauge his progress. "You're doing better than you think," he told Elias one evening. "But I need to know, what do you want out of this?" Elias thought for a moment. "I want to keep learning. Not just languages but the business. How it works, how to make a difference." Daniel nodded, seeing the spark he'd hoped for. He greenlit a training program for Elias. Courses in international business, negotiation, and project management, all funded by Pinnacle. But Daniel didn't stop there. Inspired by Elias, he launched a company-wide initiative called Hidden Talent. It invited every employee, from interns to maintenance staff, to submit skills or ideas that could benefit Pinnacle. The response was overwhelming. A receptionist revealed she'd built an app in her spare time. A warehouse worker shared a logistics hack that saved $50,000 annually. The program uncovered a dozen employees with untapped potential, each given a chance to shine. Elias, meanwhile, became a linchpin in Pinnacle's international expansion. By month 3, he was leading calls with clients in Dubai, Sao Paulo, and Tokyo, his confidence growing with each success. The office buzzed with stories about him. How he'd caught a mistranslation that saved a $10 million contract, how he'd charmed a French client with a joke in perfect Parisian slang. Employees who once ignored him now sought his advice, and the skepticism faded. Even Mark, the doubtful VP, admitted, "The guy's a game changer." But the real impact came at Pinnacle's annual all-hands meeting, 6 months after Elias's discovery. Daniel took the stage, 2,000 employees watching in person and via live stream. He recounted Elias's story, not as a fairy tale but as a wake-up call. "We almost missed him," Daniel said, his voice steady. "How many others are we missing? Talent isn't confined to titles or degrees. It's in every corner of this company, waiting to be seen." He called Elias to the stage. The room erupted in applause as Elias, dressed in a sharp blazer but still carrying his quiet humility, shared a few words. "I never thought I'd be here," he said. "But Mr. Harper saw something in me. All I ask is that." Angela's eyes widened, but she stayed calm. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady. "It means everything." The applause grew louder, a wave of respect and awe. Employees left the meeting buzzing, not just about Elias but about what Pinnacle could become, a place where anyone from any role could rise. Daniel's decision had done more than elevate one man. It had reshaped the company's culture, proving that potential could hide in plain sight, waiting for someone to listen. Over the next year, Elias thrived, mentoring others in the Hidden Talent program and helping Pinnacle secure deals in markets it had struggled to crack. The company's revenue grew 12%, thanks in part to smoother international operations. But for Daniel, the real victory was deeper. He'd learned to look beyond titles, to hear the voices that went unnoticed. And in doing so, he'd transformed not just Elias's life, but the soul of Pinnacle Solutions.